Good morning and welcome to the 2023 U.S. Women's Open at Pebble Beach. Thrilled to have everyone here this morning and thank you for joining us. We are pleased to have with us at the dais this morning from left to right, USGA CEO Mike Wan, USGA President Fred Perpall, and the USGA's Senior Director of Women's Open Championships, Shannon Rouillard. Fred, I'd like to start with you for some opening comments.
Good morning. I'd like to welcome you all here to Pebble Beach, to this historic and iconic venue for the 78th U.S. Women's Open. We're so excited to be here this week. You know, I was saying earlier to one of my colleagues, you know, when you have equity and equality, like you don't have to explain it, it just exists. And this excitement that we're experiencing has been building for years within the USGA to actually elevate our U.S. Women's Open and to put these women on the same venerable stages that the men get to play. And we're so excited to have you all here, and we're thankful that you're here to witness this with us. We have three special exemptions this week that we'd like to just announce and to reiterate. Annika Sorstam, who needs no introduction. Annika is our 1995, our 1996, and our 2006 U.S. Women's Open champion. And after retiring from a full-time playing career, we thought it would be really cool to have her come and play. We have So-Yeon Yu, our 2011 champion from the Republic of Korea. So-Yeon has played in 14 consecutive U.S. Women's Open, and we're excited that she'll be here this week. And then finally, Rose Zhang. Rose is the only player to qualify in 5 different categories, and we thought that was so impressive. And after her move to professional golf, we thought it was fitting, given all of the standards she had met, that she should be here as well. So these 3 exemptions represent not only the past, but also the future of our game, and also the present. So we're really excited. I have to tell you how appreciative we are of our friends at Pebble Beach for stepping forward to help us elevate this championship. Their commitment has led to, you know, truly something that's historic, and it's not only elevating this Women's Open, but it's elevating all of our future Women's Open. And I just would like to share with you, like, the next few sites. Like, wow, like, listen to this lineup. So in 2023, we're at Pebble Beach. In 2024, we'd be at Lancaster Country Club. In 2025, Erin Hills. In 2026, Riviera Country Club. In 2027, Inverness Club. In 2028, Oakmont Country Club. In 2029, Pinehurst Country Club. We're actually going to go back to back with the men there. In 2030, Interlaken Country Club. In 2031, Oakland Hills Country Club. In 2032, the Los Angeles Country Club. In 2033, Chicago Golf Club. 2034, Marion Golf Club. And in 2035, back here at Pebble Beach. That's pretty cool. As you can see, with Pebble bookending this impressive lineup, you know, we feel like this is a wonderful way for us to indicate to all those little girls who are coming up in golf that we feel just as special about them as we do at the men. And we hope that this sends a really strong message for the future. I'd be remiss without thanking Heidi Uberoth, the co-chair of the Pebble Beach Company. You know, when we came to Pebble Beach with this idea for one U.S. Women's Open at Pebble Beach, Heidi thought we should think bigger. And she actually said, you know, if we're going to do one, we ought to do 4. And we think that kind of visionary leadership is pretty impressive. And so we'd like to thank Heidi, David Stivers, and all of the leadership at the Pebble Beach Club, you know, just for this wonderful opportunity. So I have to say in closing, as a girl dad, like, I can't wait to see one of these impressive ladies sink the putt on 18 to win a U.S. Open. And I know that all the little girls out there also now get to dream their dream about sinking that putt on 18. And what a special gift that is, not just for the little ladies, but for the entire game of golf. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Mike.
Thanks, Fred. You're right. There's a lot to look forward to in the years to come when you think about that lineup. But there's quite a bit to look at right here this week, and a lot of records happening this week. Record entries. Over 2,100 women tried to get in one of these 156 slots. Record purse. We'll be playing for $11 million this week, with $2 million going to the winner. And I pointed this out a couple weeks ago at LACC. I'm not sure why, but I find this pretty cool. $8,000 check to everybody who doesn't make the cut. At the USGA, we really feel like the greatest cut to make is to get into one of these championships. Obviously, you'll make more if we see you on Saturday, but I think it's important to know that everybody will get paid in the field. Record TV, 26 hours of live from and Golf Central leading into this championship, and 26 hours of championship coverage. That doesn't include a lot of extras, but if you just think about 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. East Coast on Saturday and Sunday, 12 hours of network TV this weekend. Only 4 minutes an hour of commercial interruptions. All my friends on social media will be happy to hear that. And 0 interruptions in the last hour. And on behalf of both of those points, thank you to Rolex for making that happen. I hope you've been watching The Path to Pebble, 3-part document series that was started last Wednesday, again tonight and then next Wednesday. Pretty cool process. It's made Shannon so popular that she has an agent, but it's quite a documentary. I hope you get a chance to watch it. And like I said, all of those things I threw out doesn't even include the up to 10 hours a day of live streaming, thanks to American Express, that you could do on featured pairings and the rest. So we talk a lot about being here with Pebble, and thanks to Heidi and David and so many to put us on this stage, and what they've done to make this the next step in women's golf. I also just want to say to the folks that are probably producing this right now, to NBC, Golf Channel, and the rest, thank you, because this wasn't contractual. They didn't have to give us these number of hours. They didn't have to place that thing right down on 18 that they did. They're here to lift the game with us, so I want to say thank you for that. It's also going to be a first in terms of shotcast by Cisco. So think the first shot link in the women's game this week, where we have essentially radar-involved shot tracking on every player, every shot, every day. We've probably come to kind of just think of that as natural on the men's game, but this will be a first on the women's game. I will throw a shout out to the PGA Tour that about a year ago, when we said we'd like to bring ShotLink to our business, they worked with us not only to do it the men's U.S. Open, but the women's U.S. Open at the same time. There's been a lot going on this week. I don't know if you feel like I feel, but I made a mistake and told my wife, if you come to the U.S. Women's Open, I'll have a lot more time to see you than if you come to LACC. I've clearly screwed up that promise based on what's going on. So Monday, we had the reunion of champions, 39 U.S. Women's Open champions together. Tuesday, we had the 4th of July celebration on the lawn here with an all-women's flyover, which was really cool. Today, in just a few hours, we'll be all in at the Hay, just up at Pebble Beach's short course. 22 champions in that field, young women from all over coming into play in that event. And thanks to Pebble Beach and its many partners, they've raised $1.5 million, $1.5 million donation to LPGA, USGA Girls Golf. I can tell you, as a former commissioner of the LPGA, that's the largest single donation ever made to girls golf in one location at one time. So again, on so many things we can thank Pebble for, but Pebble and all its partners made that a reality. It's been their idea from the beginning. And to me, this week is a great example of past, present, and future. Obviously, we brought together the past and some of the champions that have represented this great championship. We're playing the future. We're playing for the present right now. One of the golf's greatest venues in the world, with an $11 million purse and record TV numbers. And to make that kind of donation, that kind of commitment to the future in the same week is quite a trifecta for the women's game. I'm going to end with just something I guess I've been asked the most this week, and I probably didn't think that coming in, so I pulled an audible as it relates to, I know that makes Beth nervous, as it relates to to a media day. But I've been asked the question a lot about what is an anchor site, and explain this, I guess, because we're really sitting here at Pebble for the first time. And I would tell you the anchor site is really three core items. Number one, it is a long-term, two-way commitment by both us and the site into growing the game, not just a championship, but growing the game. If you want to know what anchor site feels like, think about what I just talked about in terms of Monday to Wednesday. We haven't even got the Thursday yet, and what Pebble has already done for the game. It's a commitment to men and women, amateurs and pros alike, making sure that they're going to be partnered with us in growing the game, not just growing a championship. And because it's a long-term, two-way commitment, it's it's a commitment to invest together too. You'll see over the years things we're doing together with Pebble Beach that can make this championship better for players, for fans, for media, and for the USGA and for Pebble Beach. Things that will actually work great for our championship and quite frankly work when we're not playing a championship. And you'll see that at all of our anchor sites. We really felt like by making these long-term two-way commitments, we stopped playing championships every time for the first time. We were in a habit of playing a championship, having a recap 3 months later, and then saying, see ya. And in about 15 years, we said, what if we do it again? And we didn't do all the things we thought we would change based on the last time we were together. So anyway, that's when Beth said you have 2 minutes to talk, that was my version of 2 minutes. I'm going to turn it over to Chip, Shannon Roulard, who'll take you now through Thursday to Sunday.
Great. Thank you, Mike. Before I talk about some course highlights, I wanted to mention some strategic championship objectives that we have at the USGA. First and foremost is it's really important for us to play at the cathedrals of the game, the very best venues that the nation has to offer, because it truly is important where players win their US Open. Second is our openness. We take tremendous pride in the openness of our championships. They're really like no other. They are the ultimate meritocracies, and you're able to earn your way into our championships either through an exemption or through qualifying. It doesn't matter what town you live in, the clothes on your back, or the clubs that you play with. If you can get the ball in the hole, you have an opportunity to play in the US Women's Open. Mike had mentioned our entry numbers just went through the roof this year. 2,107 entries, about 250 entries from our last record. The third objective is a tough but fair test. That's what we're known for. That's in our DNA. And we strive to ensure that a player gets every club dirty. In doing so, it's really important to also test their mental and physical abilities too. But in achieving that objective, it's important for us to consider what the architect intended. In this case, Pebble Beach. We're going to let Pebble Beach be Pebble Beach. And while at some venues we may add a tee or we may narrow fairways strategically, it's important to allow the golf course be the golf course and let it shine. So what do we think about when we think about Pebble Beach? I know I think about Jack Nicklaus and the one iron he hit on 17, Tom Watson's chip on 17 as well, Tiger Woods' second shot on 6 and winning by 15 shots, and Gary Woodland's long birdie putt on 18. While he didn't need it to win the championship, boy, did the crowd go crazy when he did. This course produces iconic moments in golf and in US Open history, and the women will now have an opportunity to place their stamp on Pebble Beach this week. Given the small greens at Pebble Beach, this is really a second shot golf course, and the players will be required to have an excellent iron game and a short game around the greens. Being below the hole will be particularly key, as there's really more slope in these greens than they appear. The last point I wanted to mention was the grounds crew. The grounds crew here has done a tremendous job in getting this golf course prepared for the championship to begin tomorrow. But to conduct a championship of this magnitude, we also need volunteers. For the third year in a row, we have Women in Turf, and 37 women from that industry are here helping on the grounds crew. This is an enthusiastic group that loves women's golf, loves their profession, and loves the Women's Open. Thank you.
Thank you all. Before we open it to questions, Fred, I do think you have a special announcement you'd like to share with everyone today.
Yeah, thank you, Beth. So we have one more exciting piece of information to announce and to share. As we mentioned earlier, what we're doing this week at Pebble Beach with the U.S. Women's Open really is a tide that is, lifting all boats. It does trickle down to our other championships. This notion of equality and equity is not just about golf, but it's what we hope our country also will become, right? To live in a world where our little girls can dream the same thing our little boys dream, that that, you know, in some ways that we have a responsibility as the United States Golf Association to all Americans and to make sure that we exemplify that fairness and that equality. So I'd like to announce today our 2034 Curtis Cup match and where we will play that. So after Marion and after Bel Air Country Club and after National Golf Links, the 2034 Curtis Cup matches will be played at Pine Valley Golf Club in New Jersey. We'd like to offer a huge thank you to Jim Davis and to all the members at Pine Valley Golf Club for their support and for their vision to help us truly, you know, sort of showcase these amazing ladies. It's going to be a thrill to watch them play at Pine Valley. You know, always featured as, you know, one of the most iconic and venerable sites in all of golf, consistently ranked as one of the top places in all of the world to play golf. And it's just our pleasure and our honor to partner with them to actually put the ladies on this site. And so I hope you all are as excited as we at the USGA are. I know Shannon and Mike are. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Mike.
Yeah, to all my friends out there that are watching this, tickets are not yet available, so stop texting me. I just got to say, after somebody who spent a lot of his life on the women's side of the game, to be sitting at Pebble Beach, talking about going to Pine Valley, talking about 12 hours of network TV, and playing for $11 million. Some things are better than what you dream of. You know, when you go back 10 or 15 years ago, those are pretty big moments, and I hope that all of us aren't so both calloused and in a hurry and iPhone driven that we miss that kind of breakthrough moment to be sitting here. I'm not sure if it's the chill coming off the ocean, but I actually knew what you were going to say, and I got a chill when you said it. So it's really special. And to the people from Pebble and Pine Valley, to be able to say anything that includes Pebble and Pine Valley in the same sentence is pretty powerful golf vernacular, and we're just really proud to be part of it.
Great. Thank you all. We'll open it to questions. If you raise your hand, someone will bring a microphone over to you. Doug?
Mike, and I'd open it up to any of them, actually, as we're here and we've been talking about the importance of being here. In your mind, I don't want to say what took so long, but what was the change, do you think, in leadership thinking that led to the women playing in some of these courses? And I would add the PGA of America and the R&A, frankly, and what they've done with their championships as well. What do you think led us to this point?
I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm not sure I'm long enough in the tooth to give you a historical perspective, but it's been a lot of people breaking down a lot of sort of unseen barriers. You know, I remember when we were going to play Oakmont when I was, I think, my first year as commissioner, and people saying, you know, the women can't play Oakmont, that course is too tough. And you know, there was Paula lifting the trophy on Sunday in a glorious moment. And I think it's like any evolution, like Fred was talking about before. I don't think this was a magic moment. I don't think this was a special meeting and somebody was at the easel chart. I think it just slowly started to kind of build its own momentum. And now, if you think about the company that Curtis Cup hangs in, or the U.S. Women's Open hangs in, or even the U.S. Senior Women's Open hang in, it's you know, it's the best of the best. I don't know that there was ever a meeting that changed that. I think it was an evolutionary process, and it just keeps getting. And now the incoming phone calls are as good as the outgoing phone calls.
Go ahead.
Mike, what do you expect this to do for the women's game going forward when you see, after this week, how the women's game is going to progress based on playing a U.S. Women's Open at Pebble Beach?
Yeah, I don't know that it's, to me, as great as this is, I don't think this is about next week or next month or next year on the LPGA. I think this is, you know, to Fred's comment earlier before, I think this is about, like the young lady sitting in front of you. I think this is about changing dreams on a much bigger scale for younger girls and just realizing there's no boundaries to their dream. Fred makes a good point, which is, you know, sometimes you had a little girl and a little boy. You didn't want them to have different dreams in terms of where they were going to play, where they were going to raise their trophy, how much coverage they were going to get. And so I think this just sets another, you know, a new standard, a new gold standard that I think others will challenge. I remember last year, maybe it was a year and a half ago, when we announced going from a $5.5 million purse to a 10. Somebody said to me, what do you think that'll do for women's golf? And I said, I don't know what it'll do for women's golf, but I'm pretty sure a couple years from now we're going to be talking about higher purses across the board, and that's where we are. So if you know, occasionally we're going to be the leader in that, and occasionally we're going to be the follower in that. And I think we have to be excited whether we're the leader or the follower when it comes to lifting the landscape.
A question on the aisle, Steve.
Yeah, Shannon, I went out and talked to those 37 women this morning at the maintenance building. It was awfully cold, but they were very happy to be here. And I also rode the bus in with a group of volunteers who were they were like going to see Santa at the mall. How many volunteers do you have total, and how many did you turn away?
Well, I don't know if I can tell you how many got turned away, but there's 100 plus grounds crew members out there total between Bubba's staff and our volunteers. It's a wonderful number that really allows us to dial the golf course in exactly how we want to, because we're really able to put those fine-tune adjustments on the golf course in preparation for tomorrow. So they've been here since Monday, and they've all been working really hard, and you're all seeing the fruits of their labor.
And Mike, one for you. I think I watched a Shell's Wonderful World of Golf at Pine Valley with Sam Snead in it. Have they ever had a televised event since then?
I don't know. Do we know the answer to
Yeah,
that?
I don't know.
Yeah,
You know
I don't know if the Walker Cup was televised. That would be the only other possibility.
I think to your first question, Steve, I don't know if this person would want me to mention this, but in a recent superintendent meeting, one of the people working here on the grounds has been on the grounds crew for 28 years and said, in my tenure here, so 28 years is a lot of championships. In my tenure, I've never been more excited for a championship than this one, and I've never been so honored and nervous because I'm assigned cutting the 18th green. And but it was pretty cool for somebody who's been around a few championships before, saying that this was the one they're most excited and honored to be part of. DB, total volunteers?
2,500 and 500 on the waiting list.
Got it. There you go. 2,500 plus 500.
In the front, Kent?
What's the status on a search for another presenting sponsor, and what allowed for the opportunity to increase the purse without one?
Yeah, so I think in fairness to our last, our relationship with ProMedica, our separation agreement with ProMedica allowed us to just keep right on going. We announced when we did the ProMedica deal that we're not, this is our plan. We're not looking back from our plan. So this was always our plan. I think when we announced, we talked about going from 10 to 11 and 11 to 12, and we're on that path. I think, if I was being honest with you, we're closer than I probably am allowed to tell you on what would happen post ProMedica, but we're not at that point now. There's a bunch of people right now crossing their fingers and don't say anything, don't say anything. But yeah, we're pretty close. It's been both surprising and enlightening and maybe encouraging, the level of interest in partnering with us on this championship for the obvious reason of raising the bar across the board. So hold on that thought. I'll be back to you. Yeah.
So you are still looking for a presenting sponsor, right?
Yeah, honestly, we committed to the board, and Fred knows this. When we parted ways with ProMedica, we decided to kind of just sit tight for a year, and because we didn't want to be in the midst of this, running around and changing, signage and that kind of stuff. We wanted to, and so we sort of said to ourselves, let's wait a year. And in that wait, I don't wait well, as Fred knows. In that wait, we actually had 4 or 5 partners kind of reach out to us, and so we've been pretty deep in the dialogue with a couple of them.
We have a question in the front. Go ahead.
Women's golf is having a moment right now, so a lot of kids might be watching it on TV for the first time. Can you give us a few tips for kids about how you can enjoy watching a tournament on TV?
How old are you?
11.
I don't know if I'm more impressed that you're 11 or that you don't have a coat on. Those are both pretty impressive. I'm not sure which is more impressive. You want me to go? You guys want to go?
Go ahead.
Well, I don't know that I have you might have better tips for young 11-year-olds than I do. I'm 58, so I don't probably relate well. But one of the things I think you should enjoy when you watch this, whether a young girl, young boy, or anybody as a fan of the game, is we've got players here from virtually all over the world. They have incredibly unique backgrounds. They didn't have the same family. They didn't practice on the same golf course. A lot of them didn't speak the same language growing up. They didn't go to the same schools. But here they are, 156 of them from around the world. 190 countries are going to be watching them play this week. So I don't know if a lot of 8-year-old girls believe that their dad would rush home from work to turn on the TV in 190 countries to watch girls play at maybe the best venue of the game. And that's happening. So I think sometimes you can forget that this isn't going to be about your mom, and it's not going to be about your sister. Even your dad is going to be, shush, shush, she's about to putt. And I think that's a pretty cool experience. So just realize that they're not all the same. They didn't all come out of great country club lives. Some of them came out of wealthy backgrounds, some came out of very different and poorer backgrounds, and but they believed, they practiced, and they kept, as Shannon said, cool thing about golf is it doesn't care where you came from, doesn't care what the color of your skin is, doesn't care what language you speak. It just matters how many strokes it took you to get the ball in the hole. So I don't know, you don't have to be 11 to find that inspirational. At 58, I'm pretty jealous of their capabilities. So sometimes just sit back and appreciate what's really pretty amazing, and to know that you could be one of them. I mean, literally you could be one of them, and how cool is that?
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. You want to add to that,
Another
Shannon? You might.
Yeah. Can I piggyback on that? You're obviously an inspired golfer here sitting. You're the only 11-year-old sitting here, and kudos to you for that. But I would encourage you just to observe their mannerisms, observe how they carry themselves. And you know what? As long as I've been working in golf, and specifically women's golf, these players are welcoming. They're approachable. They would love to have you walk up to them, ask them for an autograph, say hi. They may as well even engage you in a conversation too, because that's who they are and what they do, and they know that they play a role in inspiring the next generation of women's golf.
A question in the back?
Is it on? All right, there you go. Hi, I'm Jonathan Linden. I'm with the local NPR affiliate, KAZU. This is for you, Fred. You've mentioned quite a bit today, equity and equality. In more detail, can you explain what that means to the USGA and how you all are enacting that right now?
Yeah. Thank you for that. I think when I think about equity and equality, and when we think about that at the USGA, we think a lot about what our country is becoming. We're in a world that just is demanding a little bit more from us. Those of us that have leadership responsibilities, and I view the United States Golf Association as having a preeminent leadership responsibility in the game of golf, but also in our society. We need to look like what our country looks like. We need to actually put our resources in the same places that reflect who is in our country. We think our future is much more exciting than our past. We think becoming is a great word, and the game of golf is becoming something that is reflective of who we want to become as a country. So when I think about elevating our women's championships, I don't only think about golf. I think about all of the little girls. Look, I have 4 sisters and 2 daughters. Everyone close to me in my life, and obviously a wife too, are women. And
that hurts a little bit.
they ought to dream the same dreams we let our little boys dream, but they also ought to know that our resources are going to be there in an equal way. And so that's kind of how I think we think about it, and I hope that's exciting. What we're becoming.
Jonathan, you may not follow us based on your background, but so we have 15 championships.
Yeah.
So we have championships for young boys, young girls, senior men, senior women, professionals and amateurs, and disabled. On Monday we'll pack our bags and try to get as quickly as we can to Pinehurst because we're in our 3-day adaptive championship for disabled. So part of equality is making sure if we're going to create these showcase events and these things that young kids can dream of, we try to make sure we create them for men, women, boys, girls, seniors, juniors, and disabled. So it's that's kind of part of that, what drives that.
And Mike, I might just ask you, for Jonathan and for everyone's benefit, to talk just a little bit about the growth in the game over the past few years and what really has driven a lot of that growth.
Yeah, I mean, I think COVID gets credit for a lot of golf growth, which is kind of strange to use that as a sentence. But even pre-COVID, we've gone from about 33 million people in the U.S. that play this game 7 years ago to over 41 million today. And there's all kinds of reasons, and COVID was one, people having the time and trying to find time outdoors and with each other, a healthy lifestyle. But when you think about a lot of where we'll be this afternoon at the Hay, these short courses here and the Cradle and the rest around the world have really taken off. Top Golf, Pop Stroke, Drive Shack. These have really brought a whole different demographic to the game. More women, more people of color, more juniors. Really in the last 3 years, about 75% of golf's growth has been driven by those 3 pockets: juniors, women, people of color. We take those 3 pockets out of the growth path, and we'd be talking about just pretty good growth, not monstrous. So pretty good time in the game right now. We went from a lot of public golf courses telling us that they were in financial distress to that number being less than 5%. So it's an exciting time for the game. And I think a lot of people thought when COVID receded, the game would as well, but just the opposite has been true.
Well, one last question here. I know Pebble Beach is such an iconic venue in the golf world. Why did it take 78 iterations of the Women's U.S. Open to finally come here to Pebble Beach?
I'm not really sure I've got a perfect answer for you, other than when you leave here, walk back to the kind of the championship wall, and you'll realize that we've been having women's championships at different levels, amateurs, college events, and everything else here at Pebble Beach a long time. Probably, if I had to really be honest with you, it's probably because we asked in a significant way, and then with their answer to Fred's point of let's not do one, let's do four. That's probably when the light goes off and says we're talking to an anchor site and not just a location for a championship. I don't think we can kid ourselves. This is a public course that has a pretty good financial stream probably coming through every week. So when we come and say, how about a championship? We typically come with, how about a championship? And nobody gets to pay to play here for 10 or 15 days, which is probably not as exciting to everybody as it could be. And this is a public gem. Like, it deserves to be played by the world. So it wasn't an easy lift, I'm sure, on their side or on ours. But looking back now, the best thing about this year is knowing that we're going to be back here again four times.
Cool. Thank you.
Question in the front, Doug.
For you, Shannon, a couple of them. Is there a consistency to where the holes are cut on Sunday over the past 6 men's opens? And if there is, how much of that can spectators expect to see on Sunday?
Sure. You can certainly expect to see some of the same hole locations. I mean, let's face it, these putting greens are small. There's only so many places you can go, right? So you can expect to see the Jack Nicklaus hole location on 17 and Tom Watson hole location on 17 as well, just to name a few.
Okay. And secondly, is there any plan for movement of tees, substantial movement of tees over the course of the 4 days?
Yeah, we have our eyes squarely on the weather. I'm not sure if you've looked at the weather forecast, but the weather is currently moving to a northwest wind, which is a typical wind here. But our meteorologist is anticipating gusts up to 25 miles an hour. So that in and of itself will be forcing us to take a holistic look at all of our tees.
You're going to have to wear your jacket this weekend.
We've had another question in the front, Ken.
We've talked about equality. We've talked about putting women on the same courses at the men of this championship. Is there an internal goal to have the purse of this championship match the men's open at some point?
Well, I mean, if I was being honest with you, we probably felt much stronger about that a couple of years ago, when the men's purse was at 12.5 and we announced we were going from 10 to 12. I don't think it's a shock to anybody that the men's game has gone through quite a lift in the last 18 months. We said in LACC, and I'd say it again, we want all of these championships to be and feel big across the board in terms of what they play in week and week out. So that championship has had quite a lift too. So yes, we'd like to get to that day. Is that day as close as we thought it was 3 years ago? Probably not. But we're pretty excited about the fact that despite that lift, we've seen a 5.5 to 11 growth in just 2 years on the women's as well.
Is there an ideal timeline to get there?
Oh, the ideal timeline was about 20 years ago. But I mean, you grow to this thing at the right pace for the overall business, and there's no doubt that this event is big on the women's schedule, not just because of the purse, but a lot of other things. And we feel the same about the U.S. Open 2 weeks ago in LACC. But yeah, that's something that's going to have to happen in time. Some of what happens in the dynamics of the game aren't in the control of the USGA, and the last 18 months is a good example of that.
Yeah, and if I would add in on that too, if we were to speak to like our championship team, it's not only about the purse, right? I mean, we would like that to keep rising to the point where it becomes equal, but it's also the eyeballs on the championship. It's also the amount of resources we put in terms of marketing and the build and getting people here and giving the same level of attention and resource to who they're playing in front of and where they're playing. And so equality takes on a lot of different meanings to us, not just the purse. But I think if we keep working on that process, eventually we get more eyeballs, we get more interest. We have the economics rise, and then it's easier for the purse to rise too. So some of this is part of the process, some of it is part of the journey, and not only the destination. And I think, you know, we're focused much more on the process, you know, to get to that level of equality.
Shannon, you were just talking about the strong winds impacting the tees. Are there any holes in particular you anticipate moving the tees up more for from that wind?
You could see some adjustments on holes 13 and 14 are good examples where we may push the tee up more than we had originally intended to. Yeah, 13 and 14.
Any other questions? Mike, Fred, Shannon, thanks so much for joining us today. Looking forward to a great 4 days of golf ahead.
Thanks.
you.
Thank you.